Let's do this, people. Okay, so today is what day? I don't know. Friday, the 19th. So it is 1/19/24. And we did not do Toolbox Talk Monday because I don't even know why. It was cold. We were all frozen.
It flurried outside.
Frozen
we
in
went
our
to
bed.
copy the school districts.
Yeah. Toolbox Talk. Okay, so basically today on our actual jobs, we're doing a lot of drywall today. So I wanted to kind of go over some of the drywall specifics. I was too lazy to go get drywall and mud and all that stuff, but I do want us to. We're gonna do some like hands-on when it comes to like drywall work. But let's go over some of the basics, okay? So today is drywall. What is drywall? Drywall is
Sheetrock.
also called sheetrock, and it's made from gypsum. Gypsum is a mineral / rock that is white in nature in color. It's also fire resistant, and fun fact, if you like take 8 to 10 sheets of drywall, you can basically use it as a fire, like a kiln, kind of, like a cheap version of a kiln, because it's fire resistant, it doesn't burn. The paper burns, but not the actual rock. Turns into powder. But we do a lot of it. Sheetrock comes in different sizes. It comes in 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8. Those are the common sizes. Most of our common sizes are 1/2 inch and 5/8. 1/2 inch typically is used on walls. 5/8 is used on ceilings primarily,
And any industrial wall.
and in commercial applications like where you have you're needing an extra fire rating basically, or you need extra strength, then most commercial jobs are also 5/8. Okay, something that we need to be aware of is anytime we're bidding a job or anytime we're installing jobs, your typical framing, this is a typical wall that's been framed, is on 16-inch centers. Okay? 16-inch centers, unless you're James, and then it's just random. But typically a wall's on 16-inch centers. So with a 1/2 inch sheet of drywall, normally comes in either 4x8, 4x12 at most box stores. On a normal wall that's 8 foot tall, you're gonna have a sheet that's gonna normally split the wall. So you've got 4 foot here, 4 foot here, okay? We've seen a lot of homeowners and different other people, they're gonna try to maximize their sheets. So you're gonna be like, okay, I'm just gonna put one sheet right here that's gonna do this section, and then one sheet right here that's gonna do this section. Then I'm gonna do one sheet right here and one sheet right here. Keep it simple, That is not the correct way to do drywall. But in relation to this 16-inch span right here, that's your common, is actually 15, whatever. But 1/2 inch can bridge that gap fine. Now, if it's hanging on a ceiling, a lot of times trusses are on 2 foot centers. So over a 2 foot center, using 1/2 inch sheetrock is dangerous, because what's going to happen, say this is your truss layout here. If you're using 1/2 inch sheetrock, most likely you're going to start to get some bows in between, because it's going to sag down. So typically you have moisture, you have heat, cold, stuff like that. So you never want to use 1/2 inch. Now, there's a lot of builders out there that's what they got on the ceiling. but you're going to run into sagging and you're going to run into a lot more movement in your sheetrock than you want. So anytime you've got 2 foot centers, 24-inch centers, you need to use 5/8 as kind of a minimum when you're doing sheetrock. Now, if the house is framed on 16-inch centers, you can use, you can go ahead and use 1/2-inch sheetrock on a ceiling, but the overall goal should always be to use 5/8 on ceilings for fire, for strength, for other stuff like that. 1/2-inch on the walls, okay? Like I said, it comes in 4x8, 4x12 sheets. And when we're doing our layout, say this is an 8-foot wall here, typically we're always going to install the ceiling sheet first. Okay, so I'm just going to write it on here. Ceiling would go first. We call those lids. So another word for ceilings is lids in our industry. The lids go on. This is, if you reverse this piece to where it's up in the air, on a lid, if I had 2 pieces here, okay, so these are 2 pieces of 4x12 sheets that are standing up, okay? On a lid, especially if it's 5/8, you need to use the correct fasteners. So fasteners for ceilings, fasteners should be inch and 5/8. Okay, there's 2 main types of drywall screws. You'll see them everywhere. There's inch and 5/8, which is for 5-inch drywall, and there's inch and 1/4, which is for 1/2-inch drywall. This is for 1/2-inch drywall. This is for 5-inch drywall. Okay, you can see that that's a 1/2 inch longer. And typically what you're wanting your fastener to hit in a stud is you're basically wanting 3/4 of an inch into solid wood. That's kind of the industry standard for everything. This is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I want to show you guys this, and everybody needs to be aware of it, especially on our crews. This right here is a stud. This is a 2x4 stud, okay? This right here is going to be our 1/2-inch drywall, and this is going to be our fastener, okay? So our fastener wants to be 3/4 of an inch in this stud. There's several reasons why. For one, you need that much bite in order for your screw nut to move back and forth. For two, you have a plumbing pipe right here that is about 1.5 inches in from this side. So say you use a 2-inch screw on this drywall right here, you are hitting that plumbing. Same with wires. If the electrician didn't exactly center their wire in the stud, if we use too long of a fastener, we're hitting a wire. So I am so nervous, or I'll be very, very cautious. Back in the old days, when I was a homeowner, I had 3-inch deck screws and I wanted to screw something into the wall. I just throw a 3-inch deck screw into that bad boy, I never thought about what was in the wall, Now that I know what's in that wall, I know how much work it is once you hit a wire or cause a fire or, plumbing. I'm always going to try to use the appropriate fastener. The goal is 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch into your solid membrane, or you have potential issues. Same for trim nails, same for anything else. If you got your baseboard trim on this side right here, I'm going to do a piece of baseboard trim, and you're nailing a 2.5 inch pin into that trim, you better freaking hope that you do not have anything in that wall, because there's a decent chance that if there's plumbing in here and you've got 2.25 inches, then you're over the middle of that stud, and there's a decent chance you're hitting something. Okay, so for 5-inch drywall, we use the correct fastener, which is 1 inch and 5/8 fastener. You can tack it up with 1¼ inch screws, 1¼ inch. Like say you have just 1¼ inch, you can get it tacked up, that's fine. But then you're gonna go back through 3 inch and 5/8. When you're doing your layout for your fasteners, okay? On the butt joints, this is a butt joint right here. Butt joint, also called bastard joint. I think it's called the bastard joint as well. They're the harder joint to mud. You are going to put a fastener every 8 to 10 inches. Okay? On a butt joint. And you're going to do the same on both sides. So it's going to look like a zipper. Okay? On your field, so this is your butt joint right here. On your field where you have your 16s going across here, or your 2 foots, doesn't really matter to me. You're going to start by putting a screw in the center of your board. Okay? And then you're going to center, so you've got, this is the center right here. And then you're going to center on either side. Okay? So here, 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 here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minimum in the field when you're doing your fasteners. So normally what you'll see the guys do, so you've got a guy holding up a piece, you're gonna shoot to like hit a center, and so the whole centers will get done, and then you'll hit your edges, you know, or you could hit an edge and hit the center.
That's usually what we do.
But the end result should be like you have a very consistent line of screws that end up being the same all the time. Okay? There's different reasons for that. You need the consistency for mudding. You need the consistency for the stability purposes. It looks better. And like for us as drywallers, our goal is to be as consistent as possible. So at minimum 5 screws. What ends up happening on a lot of jobs where people are rushing or maybe don't do it all the time is they'll put up a sheet and they're going to put one right here, and then they end up putting one right here, and then they put one here and here. Okay, so they skip the middle because this screw kind of was sort of close to the middle, but it wasn't in the middle. So a lot of times I'll see screw patterns that have 4 instead of 5. 5 is the minimum for sealing. 6, some guys say you need 6. I'm fine with 5. Okay, so just be aware of that for ceilings. The same thing applies to walls. You're hitting the center, and then you're hitting the center of the center, and then the top and the bottom. Okay, typically
on the bottom, then center, in the middle.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter as long as you have your consistent 5 screw pattern, which would be one in the center, one in the. I'm calling these the middle of the middles. I don't know what you want to call it. End result minimum should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws in every single stud. Okay. And then as a reminder, if we have a 1/2 inch drywall, then we need to penetrate solid wood by a minimum of 3/4 inch. And we do not want to use extra long fasteners for things that don't need it because we could hit plumbing and other issues. Okay. So the layout. We've done our ceiling now. Our ceiling's installed. This is the ceiling above right here. Now we're doing this wall, okay? So this is a wall. Typically, 8-foot walls are pretty common. Once you get into 10-foot walls, there's options. Sheetrock does come. There's like a 9-foot wall and a 10-foot wall. So sheetrock does come in a 56. I think it's 56. What's stretch rock? Is it 4.6? 60? I don't know. There is rock that you can get that you can still do it in 2 pieces. So where it's like, I want to say it's 56 inches or something wide. It's called stretch rock. But to where, so if this wall was like a 9-foot wall, you could still just have 2 pieces because the rock is taller.
Anyone even sell it?
Oh yeah, it does. It's pretty common. Even Lowe's has it.
Lowe's has it?
I think so, yeah. But like for the most part, most of our stuff's in 4-foot pieces. 4x12 is like a good piece to throw up on a wall. So the lid's in place right here, okay? And we're going to take our piece right here and we're gonna put this up. Typically what's gonna happen, sheetrock is one of those things to where like a guy who does sheetrock all the time, even if he's old, he still typically throws it up there like it's nothing. It's weird. Like your body, you almost trick your body into thinking it's not heavy. It is heavy. I'm not gonna lie, but like you learn how to like manipulate it to where it's on your shoulder or it's hooked on a certain way to where you're kind of using your body weight instead of like arm strength to put sheetrock up. Okay. But this piece right here needs to be consistent with the top of the ceiling. Okay. Sometimes ceilings aren't always very, very consistent. You know, you might have dips or bows depending on the framing and stuff like that. Your job is to get it as close as you can to where you've put pressure to where this is pushed up against that ceiling, okay? So you're gonna put pressure up against that ceiling and then typically you're gonna tack it in 2 spots to hold it up. As soon as you got at minimum 2 fasteners in there, you can let that thing go, okay? You don't have to worry about putting a whole bunch more fasteners, it'll stay. Joseph is not sure about this. He's saying 4 fasteners.
I'm saying 5 fasteners.
He's saying 5 fasteners, okay.
Before you let go.
We're throwing more in there. Okay, anyway, the goal should be when you're putting up a piece of sheetrock, you're going to put that piece of sheetrock in place and you're going to have your gun hanging on your hip or on your belt, okay? You should have it at minimum to where you could hook your piece of sheetrock in, grab your gun, push in, pop it. Okay, this is a 1-person operation. If you got 2 people, then you're a spoiled brat, which is fine, but it should be very quickly where both guys hold it up, both guys have guns, they instantly zip it, and you're going in, okay? What typically happens is you put this piece of sheetrock up, and then you should check to make sure you didn't cover anything up, right? That's the way it normally works. Or we just put it up, and then we let the electricians find all the boxes, okay? No, this brings up a point that's important for us to remember. Typically, the ceiling piece does not have very many boxes in it, okay? So you have to be less worried about it. But it's very important anytime you're putting up sheetrock to make sure there's no hidden box that's sitting in the wall, okay? Sometimes we take pictures, it really doesn't do justice. So you need to, whoever's in charge of the sheet needs to like know what's going in there. Yes.
Ways you can negate it is taking pictures and marking the floor before you even.
Yes. So one of the alternatives for like making sure is say we have a box here, we have a box here. Boxes typically are every 12 feet. You never know though. Boxes can be anywhere else in these places. So you can mark on the floor where the box are. You can stick something in the box to where it pushes the sheetrock away. Like some guys will stick like a block to where you just know that it's not going in all the way. Regardless of how you do it, you need to make sure that you've looked for your boxes and that you're consistent with it. Okay, first sheet goes up, this sheet finishes it out. You always have those extra stitch screws in any butt joints, 5 in the field. This next piece right here, the bottom piece, is never going to line up, or it's in very rare cases, but really it should never line up on the same butt, okay? You should always split your sheets, and the way that normally works is you either have 4-foot pieces or whatever your stud is right here. You either have some already pre-cut for it, or you have a set of 8s and a set of 12s. So if you have a 12-foot, then 8-foot will end up being like right here. And that's plenty of a stagger. So where you throw up an 8, then you throw up 12, and then you finish it out with whatever's left over. But when you're doing this bottom piece, something that a lot of guys don't do correctly, that we're working on ourselves, is I'm going to draw this out here. So here is the floor. And here is this is the bottom plate of your stud. And then here's your studs, okay? So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure from this right here. If it's a standard wall, which is rare, sometimes it is. If it's a standard wall, then 2 sheets should just fit right there. And if it's standard, 2 sheets should leave you about a 1/2 inch off of the floor, okay? But our goal is always to be a 1/2 inch off of the floor for this bottom piece, okay? Several reasons why. One of the reasons why drywall doesn't like moisture. So say you have a flood and the water's all running in here. The water typically is gonna find somewhere to go before it gets over a 1/2 inch tall, okay? But if water does get into here, that drywall is gonna like wick some of that water into your wall cavity. It'll suck it in there, you know. It's dry, it's thirsty. So very important for us to measure from this point down to our floor and subtract a 1/2 inch, okay? It's a 1/2 inch. So our piece, once we cut it, there should be a gap to where we could slip a piece of drywall underneath our drywall, okay? That's industry standard, especially on concrete, but in general, it's just the way you do it. What's important when you're doing it that way is, say somebody has had a bad day and they're thinking about how they need a pay raise, or they're thinking about their girl who needs to go to a psychologist, you know, or other things, and maybe their cut's not great. So maybe their cut's kind of wavy and their cut gets to be like a 1/2 inch long. Well, that piece is still going to go in. We don't have to pull that piece back off and cut it again because I got a 1/2 inch to work with. So this brings up a point that's very important. I feel like I've tried to grind it into everybody already. But drywall is a fast act, okay? Like if you're a good drywaller, you are not a slow drywaller, okay? If you're a slow drywaller, you're technically not a drywaller. What I mean by that is a drywall guy, an old guy who's moving like this is still gonna keep up with a lot of other guys because he always cuts consistently, he always puts it up the same way. He may look slow, but drywall goes up fast. Like drywall is not like, oh, we're gonna be on this drywall job for 2 weeks. No, drywall is like a 2-day operation or a 3-day operation, depending on the size of the project. And then they're gone. I mean, there should be energy drinks, needles of various kinds laying around on drywall jobs. I mean, those guys are moving. Okay. EpiPens, just in case anybody, you know, eats peanuts. But like, it's fast. In order to be fast, these are the rules. First rule is consistency. Consistency. Okay, you should be the same. Your cut guy should always know how to hit the center of the stud every single time. Your joint should always be factory. Like the cut guy, you're never gonna have a joint that's cut to a cut. The cuts are always in the corners hidden, okay? One of the next rules is you're never going to recut a piece, okay? So you're not gonna like, oh, I cut that too tight, sorry. Let me rasp this off for like half of an hour and rasping it off, you know. I'm not looking at anybody. I mean, I love rasp, they're fine. But rasp and drywall are gonna be minimal, okay? Everybody likes rasp around here, is why I'm saying this. But typically,
measured wrong if you're having
typically, if you're having to shave it down, you're measuring too tight, okay? Now, if you're trying to keep a consistent edge and you have plenty of room, I'm fine with that, you know. It helps your product to stay clean, consistent. I'm fine with that.
That's what we use.
But measure. One of the drywall rules is measure.
That's our rats.
Measure once, cut Okay, and basically what that means is whoever's your cut guy and whoever's your measure guy, like they should already know, like they're giving you your 1/2 inch of play, or your 1/4 inch of play. And the reason why you can have 1/4 inches of play is on a wall. If you do a wall at a time, you've got a 1/2 inch on both sides to cover that bad boy up. Okay, so you could technically have 3/4 inch of play on walls until you get to your last run, and then you don't have as much. But you need to make sure that those cuts are consistent, factory to factory, and the very important one is mark or spot boxes. Okay, different people have different ways of doing it, but you can be fast and throw up a lot of sheetrock. But if you don't have your boxes properly marked, you're gonna waste all that speed because you got to go back and find stuff and cut stuff out, and it hurts production substantially. Another rule is prep. So you'll see guys who will bring all the sheets that they need into a room. They'll get them to where you're not like walking across the building to go get a sheet. And they'll either measure out the wall, go cut them all, bring them all in, and then slap them up. Or they will, they'll be calling out the measurements, and by the time you've got your next piece already ready to go. Like it's a consistent process. It's not you do one and then you go measure the next one. Typically when a drywall crew is going, you're gonna yell out measurements. You're gonna see a wall and you're gonna be like, I need one that's this and I need one that's this, okay? Even if you don't have them both up yet. You already know what it's gonna be because you got plenty of room. So a stud, you've got 3/4 inch on either side. So if you measure from like say this corner of the wall over to here, and you're going to the center of the stud, you tell them that measurement and then you tell them the finished measurement, okay? You don't have to put that piece up and just tell them the other measurement, especially if you've got 1/2 inch of play to work with, okay? And you'll see a lot of guys, they'll put this piece up, the cut guy's waiting around, and then he comes over and measures this piece, and you'll feel like you're moving, you'll feel like you're going, but the guys who do it all the time, they've already got it measured, they already know what it's gonna be. They'll call out 4 measurements, they'll say, measurement 1, measurement 2, measurement 3, which is gonna be a stagger, measurement 4. They order it, that stuff comes in, they're slapping it up. Consistency is an important part of doing drywall. Okay? Questions? Corners. Okay, so let's get into mudding, finishing.
I mean, it has been 30 minutes. You can cover
It already has been? Okay. Well, that's fast. Alright, so basically that was the install side. What else do they call it? Hanging. Okay?
Yeah.
So drywall is considered hanging. Now we're getting into finishing. So, as a typical rule, there's hangers and there's finishers. Because we're a smaller company, we do both, which is a little bit more of a rarity. Normally, the trade sticks to its own. Okay, so a hanger is not considered a finisher, and each guy has a specific set of tools that they know how to use well and they work with it. Because we do both, we're full service, but finishers have a different skill set, and their goal is to make money just like everybody else. I don't know where I'm going with that. The key to finishing drywall is, I don't know, I'm gonna have to like come up with something for this.
I was more
So-
thinking of a proper way to install metal corners.
Oh, those.
Because
No.
I've had.
Yeah, we may have to like do finishing drywall on another
Yeah.
run.
Because after going behind the lat and through having to fix.
Yeah, well, corners are gonna be one of those things you have to demonstrate. I don't think we can like really
Get into it.
chalkboard a corner.
You'd have to maybe do it.
Yeah, we'd have to do some hands-on for that. So, I'm just gonna wrap this up for now, just so we can get going.
I would
but-
say that the Latin crew did a corner in the bathroom.
Corners,
The bottom of it was pushed all the way in,
do the full
and the
rundown.
top of
Take
it
your
was
time.
a half-inch tall.
yeah, I know, it's cold out there.
Add about
We do have time.
Yeah.
We do have time.
Yeah, so if a cabinet went up against it and pressed it, it would have looked like it was waving.
Like way off the wall.
Yeah, and that's where consistency is very important for all this stuff. I think I am gonna do finishing another time. We can just chat and like go over some stuff. But there is a difference between hangers and finishers. And key takeaways. Is consistency. Consistency, and then if you're being consistent, drywall should be fast. And attention to detail, you know. If you have attention to detail, you're not going to miss boxes. You're going to be careful when you're installing each piece, and then planning it out properly. You know, planning ahead, not just doing piece by piece where you're already thinking several pieces ahead. And you'll see the drywall crews come in, and there'll be like a guy that's going through and making measurements, and then he'll basically cut a room and then on to the next one. And then those guys are coming in, slapping those sheets up. Be careful with it. Having your tool with the proper hook on it to where it hangs on your belt, having your fasteners nearby, having clean utility knife blades. There's a whole bunch that goes into being a skilled drywall hanger, okay? We'll get into the finishing side, which is another whole set of skills. But a good hanging crew should leave it to where the finisher guy doesn't hate them, okay? Normally that means there's not a lot of rip tape, there's no fasteners that are not set properly, everything's consistent, you know, your boxes are nice and tight around there. And the end goal is like a wall that is going to last long term. I just did a repair yesterday on a house that was built 7 months ago, and they're already seeing like cracking in corners and stuff like that. And some of that comes from either inconsistent fastening patterns, you know, maybe not like good mud underneath your tape. There's other things that get into some of those things, but we're trying to do a job where it's going to last a long time, not have to worry about it. Go from there. Okay, that's drywall part one. That's what I'm going to say for now. Part one.